I turned $200 into $2,700 in less than 2 minutes. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it. Make sure you watch this video all the way through to the very end, as I not only share with you how I did it, but how you can do it as well. Now, full disclaimer guys, I'm not selling you anything. This isn't gonna be some long-winded journey that eventually leads to me trying to shove my course down your throat. I'm just sharing with you my experiences and my strategies. And really quick guys, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is only for informational purposes and entertainment value only. And just before we jump in guys, do me a favor and like the video. It helps my channel out a bunch and it lets YouTube know that
I'm for real. I'm for real.
Also subscribe down below, hit the post notification bell, leave a comment, share the video. Eat your vegetables anyways. Jake Paul, the world's biggest internet villain.
I was calling out all these people. Conor McGregor's friend, I'm throwing toilet paper at him.
It's Conor McGregor's bitch right there.
I mean, he needs no introduction.
I'm talking shit to Dana White.
Someone said hookers?
I'm just causing a ruckus.
If you're unfamiliar, he's a kid from Ohio who got his start on Vine.
I like snow.
He was on a Disney show. And then he was a YouTuber.
Good morning, Jake Paulers. What is going on?
And now he is a professional boxer. Jake Paul recently got into a boxing match with Ben Askren. Now, Ben Askren is not a household name, and many people haven't even heard of him. And that is exactly the point. You see, Ben Askren is a decorated MMA legend. He was an NCAA Division I champion, an All-American, an Olympic wrestler. He became a champion in Bellator and also became a champion at one championship. He maintained an undefeated record before he went on to fight in the UFC and fight MMA legend and former UFC champion Robbie Lawler. After submitting Robbie Lawler in the very first round, he maintained an undefeated record, and then he was subject to the fastest knockout in UFC history. He got knocked out by Jorge Masvidal in 5 seconds.
Again, the fight clock is brought to you by Modelo.
So if your girl gives you a hard time, even champions don't last long.
Got him! Got him!
Anyway, he went on to lose to Damian Maia in his very next bout before he decided to call it a career, hang up the gloves, and retire. He recently came out of retirement to fight Jake Paul in a boxing ring. Now, Jake Paul, being the controversial and public figure that he is, commands a very large range of audiences. From the 10 to 12-year-olds all the way up to the suburban soccer moms who don't like what he represents and just wants to see him get knocked out. Regardless, he commands a large range of casual audiences who aren't familiar with boxing or aren't familiar with MMA, but rather they see Jake Paul is fighting this former MMA legend and they think, great, this is the moment where he finally loses and gets the whooping that he deserves. You see, anyone who's actually familiar with the athlete that is Ben Askren would know that he is a phenomenal MMA fighter, not by the merits of his boxing, but because of his superior wrestling capability. In fact, Ben Askren is a horrible striker. No, like he's really bad. And if you don't take my word for it, take his word for it.
Now, Jake, he's wanting to make a career out of this thing, right? And if he loses to the worst striker in the UFC, he ain't making a career out of it, right?
Jake Paul does possess a certain degree of boxing skill. You give credit where credit is due. The kid can box at least enough to knock out someone like Ben Askren. But you see, during the promotion, the whole entire bout was promoted as this narrative that Ben Askren, who has spent decades fighting against some real heavy-hitting killers and maintained an undefeated record, is gonna go in and absolutely destroy this cringy YouTuber. This misleading narrative is gonna play a big factor. Now we look at sportsbooks. Sportsbooks use statistical and mathematical models in order to assess the probability of certain outcomes. This is then used to conjure up odds that people can wager on. Now, once these odds are released, these odds are influenced by a series of factors. One of the biggest factors that can influence these odds is the betting public. You see, when the betting public starts wagering on the lines available, in order for the sports books to maintain solvency and be able to pay out every single winning ticket, they adjust the odds relative to the supply and demand on each side so that it doesn't hurt the pocket of the casino. In other words, if the betting public all bets on one side, the sports books would then try and incentivize people to bet on the opposite side in order to balance out the books. This is so that the casino doesn't have to pay and honor every single winning ticket out of their own pocket. You see, the sports books don't have any vested interest in whether one side wins or the other. They just want to ensure that once all the winning tickets are paid out, the sports books still maintain their own edge and their commission. This is how they make money.
Pay me my money.
A perfect example of this would be when Conor McGregor fought Floyd Money Mayweather. Although Conor is an exceptional boxer, he was making his debut performance while Floyd Mayweather had fought at that time 49 of the best boxers and had never lost.
Never lost.
For an MMA fighter to transition into boxing and make his debut performance on the world's largest stage against one of the greatest boxers of all time, you would think that the odds would dictate that that MMA fighter would be a heavy underdog. However, due to the star power that Conor McGregor demanded, the betting public bet a significant amount of money on Conor, so much so that at one point, Floyd Money Mayweather was a negative 300 favorite. When assessing all the information available to you and looking at all the variables, a negative 300 money line on Floyd Money Mayweather against Conor McGregor was an unbelievable deal. Now that's just an example of how the betting public can influence the line of certain events. In this situation, Jake Paul is fighting Ben Askren. You have all these casual viewers tuning in who don't know anything about MMA or boxing and nothing about either of the athletes, and they start betting on Ben Askren. So much so that at one point Jake Paul was the underdog. However, Jake Paul did later go on to become the betting favorite once a lot of smart money started pouring in. Now, in my search for looking for market inefficiencies and assessing all of the information that was available to me, there were a couple key things that stood out to me. Number one, Ben Askren, as I mentioned many times, and by his own admission, is a terrible boxer. Number two, Jake Paul, although he is a novice boxer, does possess a certain degree of skill and more than enough so to knock out Ben Askren. Number three, Ben Askren is a slow starter. He's always been a slow starter. Number four, Jake Paul likes to blitz his opponents. The second the round starts, Jake Paul likes to rush in and he really tries to go for the kill. Now, although there isn't too much information available to confirm this assessment, as he's only had 2 professional boxing fights, you take the boxing fights, you take his sparring footages, you take some of the rumors that you hear of his sparring partners and some of his trainers, and you can kind of come up with a half conviction. Number 5, Ben Askren does not respect Jake Paul's boxing at all. He sincerely believes that he has no boxing capability.
If Jake's really, really good, I'm probably not going to beat him, right? But I think he's probably not really that good. That's what I think, for real.
When assessing all the odds that were available, the most attractive option was Jake Paul by the first, second, third, and fourth round. If Jake Paul were to knock out Ben Askren, it would be far more likely for that to occur in the earlier rounds rather than the later rounds. However, the sportsbooks priced that every single round had the same likelihood of Jake Paul scoring the knockout, as opposed to it being far more likely in the earlier rounds than the later rounds. At this point, I took the calculated risk to bet $200 on Jake Paul to knock out Ben Askren in the first round, as well as betting on Jake Paul in the second round, third round, and fourth round. This meant that Jake Paul stopping Ben Askren at any point within the first 4 rounds ensured me a victory. And of course, Jake Paul knocked him out in the very first round. Now at face value, I don't blame anyone to think, okay, this kid just gambled and got lucky. But the reality is it goes a bit deeper than that. Understand that everything you do carries a certain degree of risk. Everything is a gamble. Stepping outside of your door and crossing the street is a gamble. Spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a degree in the hopes that it'll get you a high-paying job is a gamble. Day trading stocks is a gamble. Buying crypto is a gamble. Starting a business is a gamble. Buying real estate is a gamble. Understand that everything you do is a gamble and has certain implied risk. But the idea isn't for you to avoid risk altogether, but instead seek out opportunities that yield a positive risk-reward ratio. In other words, the rewards far outweigh the risks. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean go and buy a lottery ticket for $2 in the hopes that you can win the $30 million jackpot. Risk reward. That's not what I'm saying. That $2 that you are risking in order to win the $30 million jackpot is far too much of a risk, as the probability of you winning is so astronomically low. You need to look at the entire situation, assess all the variables, all the information provided to you, and see if you have any kind of edge. In this scenario, the betting public influenced the lines so much so that it made it way too attractive to ignore. Now, hindsight is 20/20. Looking back now, I know that betting on the second, third, and fourth round was wrong because Jake Paul scored the knockout in the very first round. But even so, I still stand by those bets. In my opinion, they are still smart bets to make. Ben Askren could have easily tried to wither out the storm of Jake Paul throwing all these bombs on him by trying to clinch him and use some degree of wrestling within the confines of boxing. Or Jake Paul would have tried to score a knockout in the second or third round because he wanted to display a fancy new set of combinations for the crowd. Based on all the available information, I thought it best to bet on rounds 1 to 4 on Jake Paul. Again, guys, this channel is devoted to learning exactly how you can find inefficiencies in the market and arbitrage opportunities in order for you to make a significant amount of money. It's not designed to pass any kind of judgment or show any kind of bias towards athletes or public figures or stocks or companies or anything like that. I don't care much about Jake Paul or Ben Askren. I just want to know what's going to happen and if I can make some money out of it.
Pay me my money.
Whether you love Jake Paul or hate him, or you love or hate Ben Askren, it doesn't matter. We're interested in how you can make money out of the situation. Also, I thought it was important for me to show you guys the losing tickets so that you can see the entire picture. I'm not trying to just show you the winning tickets and try and create this false narrative. No one has a crystal ball here. You're not gonna win every bet. You're not gonna win every trade. That's why stop losses exist. As long as you come out ahead at the end, you're doing great. Also guys, I didn't include any affiliate links below because I didn't want this video to come off like I'm shilling for any kind of sports book or I'm encouraging gambling. Please be very responsible with your money and don't be reckless. Do not turn into a degenerate and start betting on random sporting events and outcomes, hoping for you to win big. In addition to that, before you join any kind of sports book, do your own research. There are a lot of scam sports books out there, but there are a lot of reputable and safe ones as well. I'm not going to mention any of them in here because again, I am not trying to encourage gambling or degeneracy, and I am not trying to make it seem like I am shilling for anyone. If you guys have any comments or any questions, feel free to shoot me a message or leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching, guys. To the next one.